All right. As of yesterday, we have officially bought our dream new European and America's overlanding vehicle.
Finally, my God.
Wow, what a process. Lot has been going on in the background. So today I want to talk about the thought process that went into our choice of vehicle, because I'm sure some of you will have some questions about why we chose what we did. So don't be cheeky and skip to the end. Hang around because there's quite a bit to talk about, and there's some interesting stuff that went on behind the scenes.
But we do reveal the vehicle in this video, so yeah, stay tuned.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave Chris for now. I'm just going to try to make Oakley sleep, and I'll be back very soon, hopefully.
Good luck. Now, as with many things, some compromises have to be made somewhere, and we kind of had to deal with that with Bowser. You can't tick every box, especially when it comes to a vehicle, and especially one that you're going to live in and travel over multiple continents and countries with, and of course climate. So for us, we had a few key considerations. I've got my phone in front of me, so please excuse me because there is quite a lot. I don't want to forget anything. So first consideration for us was budget. So with our budget, we are more limited than what we had with Bowser here in Australia. And that can be pretty tricky because we're going to be dealing with foreign currencies. The Australian dollar isn't very strong internationally, so budget is a big consideration for the vehicle we chose and will be a big consideration for the build going forward. Number two is build time. We do not have as much time to build a vehicle as we did with Bowser. We gave ourselves a full-time year of Ange and I working on the build in order to complete it to the standard that we wanted to, which we did, but we do not have that time, A, because of Oakley, and B, because of things like visas and stuff like that. So that's going to be a bit trickier, cannot be as in-depth and elaborate of a build this time. Number three, external dimensions. So something we're really focusing on this time around for this vehicle is we really would like it to fit into a shipping container, and ideally a 20-foot shipping container. I'll put those dimensions on screen. I don't know them off the top of my head. Internal dimensions obviously being quite a bit smaller than the external dimensions of a shipping container. And then worst case, if we go slightly outside of that, we can do what's called a 40-foot high-top shipping container, and that ideally we could share with either some motorcycles or another small overlanding vehicle as well. Because we would be shipping from, I'll talk about it more, but from Europe to America, there should be quite a lot of travelers wanting to do that route in comparison to Australia elsewhere. So yeah, external dimensions was a big part of it. The other thing about the external dimensions is we want to be able to fit on things like shelf roads in the States, so we don't want to be too tall, and we want to fit in narrow, old, winding European villages that we just never designed to have trucks, the size of Bowser rolling through. Next consideration, internal dimensions. So we need space to be able to live and to be able to get out of the elements. We've been very spoilt with Australia. We can drive anywhere we want and sort of go with the nice weather. We're not going to be able to do that in parts of the Americas and Europe because we're going to want to explore, for instance, the Alps. We're going to want to explore deserts. So we're going to have to deal with extreme temperatures much more than we've had to deal with Bowser. So we need some sort of space to get out of the rain and the snow and the cold and the heat inside the vehicle. And that makes things tricky once you're dealing with the external dimensions I just kind of spoke about. We also need a seat for Oakley, and that's a big kicker. There's tons of two-seat awesome overlanding vehicles that would be a great choice, but as soon as you add in that extra seat, that's when things become exponentially more difficult. All right, next consideration is looks. So Ange and I are vehicle enthusiasts. This is obviously just personal preference, but we want to go with a vehicle that we really like the look of and love and think is kind of badass. I mean, that was part of the consideration with Bowser. We're not going to lie, we wanted something that looked awesome as well as was functional for our needs, which we did. We also, being YouTubers, need to think business-wise as well. We need a vehicle, we think, that is unique. So there are many vehicles out there that would be suitable to the task, but if they've been really heavily overdone on YouTube and social media, it wasn't as of as much interest to us, and I'm sure long term it won't be as much interest to you, especially when doing a build, because there would be so many others anyway. This will be completely unique. Next one, mechanical reliability and simplicity. One incredible thing about Bowser is that we can go absolutely anywhere in the most inhospitable terrain doing really gnarly stuff loaded to about 10 ton, and I know that nothing's going to break mechanically on it. And to me that's really important. I don't want to be smashing through CV joints or blowing unis or anything like that. And that's one awesome thing with Bowser. I never have to worry about that. And in all of our 42,000 kilometers around Australia that we've done so far in a couple of years of touring, the only thing that ever happened was a steel brake line rattled loose and started to leak a little bit, so I had to fix it. That's the only thing that's ever happened. So having a vehicle that is just basically bulletproof when it comes to its mechanical reliability, even though he's 40 years old, that is a huge consideration for us. And I also want a vehicle that's simple to work on, because I'm not a mechanic, and we are going to be in countries where I will not speak the language, so I cannot be trying to describe some complex onboard electrical system or ECU or anything like that, the onboard computer system of a newer vehicle. I also don't want to be dealing with AdBlue and things like that, so it has to be simple and mechanically reliable. Next consideration for us was its off-road capability. As you know, we love going off-road. We like to spend ideally half of our time off-road at this stage in our life with Oakley. Before it was 100% of the time off-road. So we want to have a vehicle that we can push down any track and know that all we need to do is engage forward drive, and we are highly likely to be able to get through if we can see tire tracks. That for us is a huge consideration. And we want to be able to, the dream is to be able to ship to the States and tackle things like the Rubicon Trail, go through Moab. We want to be able to do these really cool tracks that I've grown up watching and Ange is now really keen on doing as well. So we need, a home that is capable enough to handle these tracks without breaking, falling apart, or stressing us out that, maybe we're not doing the right thing. And those were the considerations. Okay, so this journey to look into a new vehicle started about 6 months ago. So it started very soon after we got back from New Zealand with Oakley. That's when I just started spending kind of any time I could get, sort of just going through Facebook Marketplace. So I would set Facebook Marketplace to the different cities around the country, because you can do that, and then you can see kind of what's there. And I was also checking, of course, Gumtree, eBay. I was going through Instagram. I was just trying to get an idea of what was here that would be a suitable vehicle for us to then ship overseas. So some of the vehicles that we sort of considered, first of all, 60 series Land Cruiser, an old Troop Carrier, so an old, I guess, a 75 series, ex-ADF Parenti 4x4 towing a trailer, ex-ADF 6x6 Parenti with a camper on the back, so not towing, an older Land Rover Defender, maybe even one of the ex-ADF military Defenders, not the Parenti. And then we would kind of just do a sort of a build in the rear plus a trailer. We looked into an older Ocker, one of those Australian-built old four-wheel drive sort of, it's like an off-road van, if you haven't seen those before, called an Ocker. And we also even looked into a Toyota Coaster 4x4 bus. So a lot of these considerations were good in some ways, but just not feasible or not a very good choice in others. So none of these vehicles ticked enough boxes for us to be like, okay, that's the smart thing for us to do. We also know that bringing a right-hand drive vehicle to the Americas and to Europe is just not ideal. I sort of spoke about a little bit in the previous video that we put up about the fact that Costa Rica and Nicaragua don't allow a right-hand drive vehicle there anymore, so you can't technically finish the Pan American Highway. You would have to skip those countries, which is a shame because they are really cool countries that we would love to explore. So, but also just general day-to-day driving on a right-hand drive where every other vehicle is left-hand drive is just going to be a pain in the butt. Yes, people do it, but if we can avoid it, that would be really nice. I even checked left-hand drive vehicles here in Australia, but there's really not many. And the ones that are here, say for instance old Chevys or old Ford pickup trucks, they're all wildly overpriced kind of for the vehicle you actually get. We also have the big issue that if we ship from Australia to Europe, for instance, you can only have that vehicle over there for a total of 6 months. That's all that you can get in terms of like a temporary import for a vehicle. That would be a real shame, because we would go all that way, spend all that money to get there, and 6 months is just not enough, especially now that we've got Oakland, we have to go a bit slower. There's no way we could see the whole of Europe in 6 months. We wouldn't be able to even scratch the surface. So we'd have to kind of pick and choose countries, knowing that we had to leave pretty quickly. And if we had any breakdowns or anything like that, it would just sap time. So yeah, the big one for us was that. And that really kind of led us to think, okay, so it's going to be better to get a vehicle overseas. Okay, so then we moved to buying overseas and doing a build over there. So I discussed a lot of the reasons why we think shipping Bowser over to Europe or America is not the best idea for us. But I talked about that again in the previous video, so I won't go over that too much. If you want, check that video out, because I do talk about that sort of in a lengthy way, I guess, as I always do. So with Bowser, we will keep him here, and that'll be our little home base here in Australia. And it also means that we can come back to Oz when we choose and still do touring. He'll be parked up, should be absolutely fine. Hopefully we can find a place. We haven't found one yet near Perth. Hopefully we can find a place where someone doesn't mind storing him and maybe starting him up once a month just to get the juices flowing. But I think Bowser will be absolutely fine. And then we've just got that peace of mind that we can come back to Oz anytime we want or need, and Bowser will be sitting there waiting for us to do a big adventure in. Now, doing a build overseas is nowhere near as simple as some of you may think. So there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, where do you do a build? Like, you need space, ideally needs to be undercover, that you need to be able to have access to electricity, to tools, it needs to be near hardware stores, vehicle parts stores. Where do you do that overseas? Like, you have to somehow meet the ideal person who says, yeah, just come on over, do a build. And then if you find that place, where then does a young family live near enough that's not going to cost an absolute fortune? We're not going to be able to stay where the build is happening. Yeah, so it's just really tricky. Would we live in a vehicle? Would we buy like a camper van to live out of and then try and sell it after the build? Would we do a homestay? And then if we do a homestay, they're often very temporary, so then we'd get kicked out and have to go somewhere else. Would we do an Airbnb? They're often really expensive. We wouldn't be able to do a long-term rental with people because we wouldn't have any, proof of income or address so there's a lot going on when it comes to doing a build overseas. Visa time restraints, that's another big one. So for instance, if we did a build in the USA, we're only going to be able to get a 6-month visa. Maybe at the most we might be able to get a year, but that would be tricky getting one of those visas. Same with Canada, 6 months only. That build's going to set that time up, and then we've got no travel time, and that wouldn't be nice. It would be a complete waste of time. Not having the proof of address, necessary paperwork, things like that, that's all tricky, all that bureaucracy and stuff. The world is getting harder to wing it, we're noticing. So yeah, a lot of reasons why a build overseas would be hard. Now, we could have bought a vehicle already fitted out. That would have 100%, that would be the easiest choice, but it's just not our style. So we haven't gone down that road. So that leaves us with one of our only options, which is to travel to France and have a vehicle that we buy in France registered in Ange's name, because she's a French citizen. One of the only ways we can legally sort of do it, which means we would have a left-hand drive vehicle and we would be able to keep it in Europe for as long as we needed to while we did the build and traveled. But the big issue with France is, where do we do the actual build? We can live at potentially Ange's parents' place, but there's just nowhere nearby where we can do a build. Ange spent ages trying to see if there was like a small lockup or an industrial estate, somewhere we could maybe rent like a storage shed, but all of them, they do not allow any kind of mechanical work, let alone the sort of stuff I'm going to be doing in there, the welding and the painting and things like that. We did find in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, we did find like a public workshop, I guess, but it was quite expensive, and it being in the Netherlands is not as ideal for us as well. But so that was an option we kind of toyed with, was, you know, can we rent a place in Amsterdam and then, you know, park in a public car parking space, but sometimes I can use a workshop bench in this public workspace. But yeah, definitely less than ideal. All right, we're back.
I failed at my mission, but hopefully we can make it work and Oakley can just be part of the show and just enjoy what we are telling you.
Come on, Oaks, toe the line. Okay, so some vehicle options for Europe. So I'm getting there, I promise. We'll reveal the vehicle very soon. But I want to talk about some vehicle options because a lot of you in the previous video were doing suggestions because we asked you to, which was perfect.
And some of you have guessed. Yeah.
No one has guessed the exact vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
They came close to the make, nearly to the model, but no one actually guessed the exact vehicle, which is cool. Okay, so some vehicle options for Europe were Land Rover Defender. Epic vehicle, and love the look of Defender. I've never owned one. I'm sure it's awesome. I wouldn't mind working on it. Yeah, they're just they're the quintessential safari overland vehicle, right? Which I love. But there's a few issues. Size. For a family of 3 full-time, not ideal. There wouldn't really be much place for us to get out of the weather. So that's a tricky one. They're also really popular. They've been heavily done in terms of builds, things like that. But one of the bonuses of that being there's lots of aftermarket support for them. You can just slap so many different things on them now. But we decided, yeah, not to go down the Defender route, just too small and not quite as unique as we would like in terms of a vehicle.
One main advantage as well of the Defenders is they are worldwide and the community just is amazing. We actually have quite a lot of friends who own Defenders and they're usually all very nice people. So that would have been nice to join the Land Rover Defender community, but maybe one day. Yeah,
it's like a proper tight-knit family when it comes to the Land Rovers. So another one I really heavily considered, especially before deciding that we would buy overseas, was a Range Rover Classic. I've just always loved Range Rover Classics. Maybe one day I'll own one, but they're probably even more impractical for us than a Defender in terms of, you know, living space. Then we looked at a old Iveco Daily. They're like a van. They're really cool and they're 4x4, but they're usually too big for a container because they're usually made into a high top, and B, they are outrageously expensive for the amount of vehicle that you get, and they're also rare. When I was looking, there just aren't many popping up. There's a few popping up in Germany, but they're usually like 50,000 euro and stuff like that, and the build inside I would want to tear out and redo anyway, so didn't go with the old Iveco Daily.
Yeah, Germany really seems to be the place where you can buy the coolest expedition vehicle.
Yes.
Like it's really the place to be in Europe.
The WOMO or the Expeditionsmobil, what they call them, yeah, they are big on it in Germany. Then we looked into an old Mercedes ex-military van called a 310, and there's another, I think there's into the 600s and stuff. They're a cool van. They are pretty old and you can get them off the military. The price has really gone up because a lot of people have been converting them around Europe. Mm-hmm. Most of them aren't 4x4, so I'd either have to convert into a 4x4 or manage to find a 4x4 for a reasonable price. But to get that to be a capable off-road vehicle would be very difficult, time-consuming. By the time you did, it still wouldn't be very capable and it would be too big for a container. And they're a bit ugly, I guess, in a way. So sorry to anyone who owns one of those old vans. They just, for us, didn't hugely appeal, I guess. Yeah, I probably shouldn't use the word ugly, just not for us. Then we thought about a Mercedes Sprinter. Of course, the new one's wildly out of our price range. Again, like with the Defender, heavily done and modified already. And just never really appealed. Some of them are too long for a container, some of them are too high for a container. It's a really smart choice. It's a really smart choice for a family, an old Sprinter van, a 4x4 one, but for us, just not what we wanted to do. Then we looked into the Mercedes Vario van. They're awesome. They're massive. Like, I had no idea. One of the first vehicles I wanted to look into was a Vario, but they're huge. They're like almost the size of Bowser. They are ridiculously big vans.
And they're very rare. Like, that was very hard to find one.
Hard to find one, and the only ones we could find way out of our price range, unfortunately. They hold value amazingly well. Actually, they seem to really go up in value. So, not a Vario van, but they're neat. But again, also, you wouldn't be able to make it really off-road capable. You could make it capable, but not quite the level that we want to do. Then we had Unimog U4000 Docker or U1250 Docker. So
that was definitely one of the things I thought about straight away. We're like, okay, Europe, Unimog, there would be so many in Germany, and we did see a lot. Actually, it's quite frustrating to see like the Docker, which are the dual cabs. They are so much more affordable than in Australia. So
much more
we
affordable.
Really considered it, but
because that would sort our seating out. That would sort a little bit more storage. But one of the downsides of the Docker would be we would have to put something like a 4-wheel camper's pop-top slide-on camper, and they're really expensive. So we would have had to have reached out to a company and hoped that we could get a full sponsorship, but then I would still want to make modifications to the living space. And we were looking at Dockers that are around about the €40,000 mark, so that kind of would have been our whole budget without the camper. And then we still would have ended up with a large vehicle that kind of wouldn't really be much different from Bowser in terms of its size. So, but really cool, and we would definitely still potentially think about that one day, maybe when we're a bit older. Then we had the huge Man-Cat ones. I've got a real soft spot for these big V8 air-cooled Deutz engine Man-Cats. It would be the 4-wheel one, not the 6 or the 8-wheeler, but the fuel economy would be horrendous. And it's just too big.
We don't need
it's
to
awesome,
upsize.
but it's just too big. Yeah, our intention is not to go overseas and upsize for somewhere where we ideally want a smaller vehicle. So we didn't go with that. You also have got the 1960s bullnose Mercedes trucks. You can get quite a few fire trucks. Some of them are quite cheap. They're really cute, and we know a few families traveling in them. But because they're so old, not super reliable, they're very big, and they're not really a hugely capable 4x4 truck. It would be a step down from Bowser. They're not a Unimog. Then we had our third choice. I'm getting there, guys. We've got 3 to go. Our third ideal choice, a Unimog 416 Docker. They are so cool. I've looked at those for so long. You cannot get them in Australia or New Zealand. They are actually affordable overseas because not many people want them anymore. They've moved to the more modern Unimog. And the Docker version will be cool. There's quite a few in the Netherlands. They were a fire truck. And some people in the United States have made them into the most incredible looking rock crawling vehicles. Man, one day we'll get one of those, Ange, I'm hoping.
One of the downside of some of them, so this one was a long wheelbase and with a large camper at the back, but most of them have just a tiny tray, and as much as they look super cool, but the living space would have been in existence, and we just had to be realistic.
I think Angie's actually talking about the 406. That is also a really cool little vehicle, but tiny tray. The 416 has the larger tray. We would be able to put a pop-top on it, but again, like with the U4000, it'll be out of our budget by the time we make it livable, and again, too big sort of thing. So, and also it would be slower than Bowser, so we'd have to spend quite a bit of money re-gearing or repowering. So that could have been a bit tricky as well in terms of budget. Then we came to our second ideal vehicle, the Pinzgauer. So that is an Austrian vehicle named after an Austrian breed of bull. They are really cool. You can get a 4x4 variant and you can get a 6x6 variant. Now, there is some good aftermarket support. There are quite a lot of people who have turned them into campers. Some of them they've done extraordinary builds on them. But some downsides for us were they are very, very, very narrow. The 4x4 is very short as well as being very narrow. And the 6x6, the only one we could kind of afford that we'd sort of found is like a canvas top, which wouldn't work for us at all. We would need a hard body.
Like a lot harder.
Yeah, we would need a hard body, a long hard body, and those were quite high in price, and again still small. And then you've got a very underpowered petrol engine, because the diesel version were newer and they were definitely out of our price range. And then you've also got a really complicated driveline. So what goes on underneath a pin scale is like a feat of engineering, but there is a lot going on there. And I've heard from some owners that, yeah, in retrospect, there's maybe a little bit too much going on that 6x6 variant pin scour. But still, that was definitely second best option for us, because we would be able to get one that could fit into a container. So that leaves us with the pick of the bunch. Drum roll. We have got a 1975 ex-Swedish military Volvo 6x6 C304 TGB13.
Gosh, the longest name
That
ever.
is a mouthful. Did I get that right? Long body.
Long body.
Long body, not the truck body.
Wow.
Awesome. So I have had my eye on these things for a long old time. Some people will see pictures of them and think it's a pin scour. It's not. It's a whole different breed, and they are so damn cool. And they're famous. They're famous in Sweden. They are considered the Swedish Unimog. So some big bonuses for us with this vehicle was the one we got is alloy zinc. So I need to find out exactly how the process went in, but what I've been told is that they dipped steel panels into a liquid alloy zinc mix. Basically what it means, rust free. So, and these are old vehicles, no rust on them. So the one we got, alloy zinc, which is really cool. Very happy with that, because not having to worry about rust for the lifetime of the vehicle is going to be a huge bonus for us. It is on portal axles, so similar to Bowser, wild clearance, and we've got gearing on each hub, so that's really cool. And I sort of know portals now. In fact, going to a vehicle without portals will be difficult for me. It has good living space, so there's enough room in that 6x6 long body that we could get out of the weather and be able to sleep inside. So that's a big bonus for us. We'll be able to get out of the nasty weather. Fits into a container. At this stage, stock, it fits into a 20-foot standard shipping container. If we go a little bit elaborate on the build, we might go just out of dimensions, and then we might be able to do a 20-foot high top, or at the worst case, like I said earlier, we'll be able to fit into a 40-foot high top with another vehicle as well to share the costs going overseas. So perfect for that. It was affordable for us. We'll talk about the price that we got it for and stuff. Will we talk about that in this video?
Probably another video, just so that
we'll talk about this in another vehicle.
Cost.
Have a guess how much we picked the vehicle up for in euro. Have a guess. Whoever guesses it right wins a special prize. I don't know what the prize is yet, Ange. So it's unique. No one that I know of has done a cool build of these on YouTube. So it'll be nice being the first C304, C303 build on YouTube. So they are becoming a really hard to come by vehicle. There are a few scattered around the world, and there's some like sort of barn find ones in Sweden, but the cost of them is skyrocketing, especially the alloy zinc long body. And yeah, very, very happy that we got one. We were worried actually, kind of when we'd made our mind up, we were worried we wouldn't be able to actually find one for a good price, but we have. So happy with that. We just struck gold with who we met online and the one that we just happened to find. So we're so chuffed, because it was like finding a needle in a haystack for this thing.
It's crazy that now we own 2 ex-military vehicles. And if you ask me, like, how is Chris convincing me to get into this crazy project, I still don't know today. I always remember when he started to talk about a Unimog, and I thought it was like crazy, and now I look back and we've got a home. So yeah, now I'm like, I guess, much more excited than when we started to talk about the Mog.
Never underestimate the ex-military vehicles. They know what's up. Okay, so this was a true barn find one. This one had been sitting in a barn for years and years and years before the owner I purchased it off picked it up and had it basically in their lot sitting there. So it's only done something like 20,000 kilometers. It's completely unmolested, which for us was a huge bonus. We didn't want to buy one that someone's already done a bunch of kind of gnarly work to the insides or messed around with the dashboard. I really wanted a true original military spec one with the gun hatch. It's got like a mount for a 50 cal on the top that the Lithuanian army ran with. Like, yeah, it's an awesome barn find one. It was just an old dusty old boy just sitting back there for a long old time, and we've managed to kind of find it. There's going to be some serious work to do to it, of course, as you can see, but we're going to turn this thing into a real weapon. This thing is going to be unreal. It's going to be cool. Like, we're so excited for this build, and it's not going to take us as long as with Bowser, I hope. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. So we actually were lucky enough, we got to have a really good look inside and up close with one here in Perth, funnily enough. We reached out to an owner of one who was on a forum, and he kindly said, yeah, come on over and check it out. He, under no circumstances, would sell it. We asked him. And there must be maybe 4 in Australia. People had imported them over the years. Now you can't import them because Australia has now stopped vehicles over, I believe, 4.5 tonne from being imported from overseas without a massive headache. I think they would have to either already be converted to a motorhome or something else, but basically impossible for Ange and I to have imported one and then shipped it overseas. We looked into that. But yeah, it was so good being able to actually look at one and see it up close and work out sort of, can we live in this thing? And yes, we think we can. So, hey buddy. It's a bit cold out here, that's why I'm sniffing, I apologise. So there's another ex-military run, the 4x4 called the C303. Some of those are affordable for us as well, and usually much cheaper than the 6x6, but we got a really good price on our one. But they are a bit too small, so we definitely considered that one, but that would have been a much trickier build to sort of make work. We would have ended up in a vehicle not much bigger than our Jeep when it was just Ange and I, thinking it was too small. So yeah, it would have been a serious compromise. I don't know if Ange would have been super stoked with my choice, so we went with the 4x4. Then you've also got a 6x6 ambulance body, and a lot of people, I'm sure, when they see it will be like, that seems like the better choice for us because it's already got a camper on the back. But the big downside of that is no seat for Oakley. The awesome thing about the long body is we're in one continuous vehicle. So we can see Oaks, we can talk to him, and should be able to reach him in his baby seat and feed him cookies and things like that. So, which we wouldn't be able to do in the ambulance body. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would still have to have a lifting top on the ambulance. You wouldn't be able to stand up in it, so it would be quite cramped as it is. So yeah, we didn't go with the ambulance body, but for anyone interested, they are more affordable and more common than the 6x6 long body, which we bought. So yeah, so stay tuned for our next video. That's where I'm going to show you the process of what we went into buying a vehicle on the other side of the world, sight unseen, and still being confident that we weren't going to get ripped off or Ange's money disappearing. So like, whew, that was really full on, and it's a cool story, and it's obviously unfolding as we go, and I'm now planning the build in my head. I'm trying to source parts and what I want to do with this vehicle. It's a giant jigsaw puzzle that I need to put together as fast as and as comfortable for us as possible in another country. So yes,
but
so
you
stay
like a
tuned.
good challenge.
I like a challenge. So does Ange secretly. She likes she hates it, but she likes it at the same time. So let me know what you think about the vehicle. As you can see, it now kind of barn find spec. It looks a bit rumpty, not going to lie, but think of what Bowser looked like
Before.
when we first bought him and the transformation that took place with it. So just you wait to see the Volvo. We haven't named the Volvo yet. We'll kind of discuss it. We might actually have to meet him or her first before we decide on a name. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But you got to personify the vehicle, right? I think I've gone over everything. But also let me know in the comments what you think we're going to do to it. Like, do you think we're going to do a pop top? Do you think we're going to do a rooftop tent? Do you think we're going to have things coming out of the side of it?
Give us ideas.
Give us ideas, yeah, because we're not 100% convinced on what we're going to do with it yet.
Stay tuned.
So that was a long-winded video, but there's so many considerations that need to be made. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas. We managed to get this video out just before Christmas Day.
Christmas special.
Because we didn't know we were going to have this vehicle. And we got it. All right.
Guys, watch out the good news.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Right.
Happy New Year from us. And we'll see you in the new year.
Bye-bye.